Morning everyone and welcome to day 3 of my 30-day video challenge. Yesterday I shared the beginning of my story of the things that I think have shaped me and moulded me and also impacted my health and my well-being. So I discussed my marriage. I don't like to call it a failure, but my first marriage that did not work out, that had an expiry date. And how I had to walk away from that because it was the right thing for me to do, and I think the right thing for him as well. And it's all turned out happily ever after in the end. So today I would like to share the next chapter from that in an effort to give somebody out there some encouragement and yeah, a little bit of I get it, I've lived it, and yeah, you're not alone. So this is the next chapter. Shortly after my marriage had broken down, I had somebody who I'd met through my work who was, to put it harshly, I would say he had targeted me. He was already kind of trying to get into my confidence and learn more and more about me and quiz me, and he would, even ask friends what's going on with Kate, so he would get as much detail about me as he could. It turns out that is his MO, to pick women that were always younger than him. I was significantly younger than him, 15 years, so that they were, as you'll find out, easier to control. He would pick broken women, and he would just like to be the one that would swoop in like Prince Charming and save the day. So I just feel like I was quite quickly targeted by him, but at the same time, I'm not putting all of the ownership on him. I did make the decisions as well. So coming from a place where I felt quite broken, I had already entered my marriage at a very young age when my self-esteem and my level of self-respect was probably not very healthy anyway. But then having been spat out the end of it, when I had carried a lot of guilt over the fact that my marriage had broken down, to put it all out there, it mostly broke down because of my choice to not want to have children. I could never explain this choice. It was just always again, gut feeling that I just did not want to have children. Love children, love my nieces and nephews to absolute bits. But it was just, motherhood was just not something that ever resonated with me or ever felt right. So that's why at a young age we just went, oh well, we'll just see, surely I'll change my mind. And I didn't change my mind. So I had to wear a lot of guilt over the fact that I blamed myself for my marriage breaking down. Why couldn't I have just had a baby and it would have made everybody happy? But it wouldn't have, because I would have been miserable and that child would not have had a beautiful upbringing, which is what all babies deserve. And it's okay, because I feel like my life's purpose was not to be her mother this time around. I've got a lot of other work to do and I need to focus on that. So I'm totally okay with it, but I was broken by the end of that process and yeah, carrying a lot of shame. So it was quite easy for him to just target all of the things that had fallen down in my marriage and offer them on a silver platter to me and go, I can give you that and I can give you that and I don't mind about that and let's go. So I was facing loneliness for what I thought was going to be the rest of my life. Vulnerable, was not in a good place to be making decisions, so I jumped in. My first warning sign that he was not going to be my next life partner was when he lost his temper very badly at me for daring to ask what we might do that day on a Sunday, because that was putting too much pressure on him, and it turned into this gigantic screaming match. And he always would turn it and get very personal. Why do you always have to do that? And why do you always have to do this? And you're such a this and you're such a that. And this was within like a matter of days of us officially becoming a couple. So I said to him, I was at his place, so I just said to him, I'm going to leave now because I don't like being spoken to like this. And if this is normal behaviour for you, it's not something that I'm interested in, living with. He came crawling back, said it's not normal behaviour for him, it's just because he had quit smoking for me, and that he was a night shift worker. So I naively believed him because I like to see the good in people, and I didn't want to just give up on him that quickly. So my first mistake, but never mind. So I, very quickly found myself in this relationship that was progressing fast. I think that's also part of his MO. He really wanted to get his claws stuck in, and I was very much a possession to him. So he wanted to pee all around the outside basically and say, I own this. So he did that in a lot of ways. That would be like just publicly bragging about the difference between our age and that he'd, bagged this young woman to all of his workmates who'd then come up to we worked in the same hospital, so they'd come up to my pharmacy and, go, oh, this is who he's got. And it was very embarrassing. And he quickly started doing things like staying more at my house than at his house, and sort of starting to, put lots of things around, dictate what I was doing wrong in my house and make me change it. He decided that he would move into my house one day when we hadn't discussed it, because I would have said, I want to see where this is going first, and then proceeded to ring me at my work, screaming his face off because I hadn't cleared out half of my cupboards to leave space for him. So clearly I wasn't committed, and what's wrong with me? And my workmates could hear, I was standing in basically kind of a broom cupboard. They could hear him screaming at me from the other side of the room. I want to quickly shout out here to my best friend, Tracy. Love you, sweetheart, because I could not have got through any of this without her. As you can see, I don't get emotional when I talk about the rest of the tough stuff that I lived through in my life, but I get emotional when I talk about Tracy because she's a beautiful person and she's lived through a lot of my drama and loves me anyway. So I could not have got through it without her. She witnessed this, and she then witnessed a lot of other stuff, but I did actually manage to keep most of it to myself. Not very many people knew how he was treating me, particularly my family. I did not want my family to see him as a bit of a devil. I did not want them to come around with pitchforks and want to attack him because of how he was treating their girl, unless I had the courage to get out of it. And for 3 years I did not have that courage. So I suffered silently to a degree, but thankfully had my confidant in Tracy, and she was very, very respectful in terms of that she did treat him the same when he came to, because he had to visit our work quite regularly. She was always very respectful to him because she knew what it was like. If she'd treated him badly, I would have suffered for it later at home. So she was the perfect person to have by my side. He quickly started to control everything. He would control what I wore, and he would, if I went out somewhere without him, he would make me wear my old wedding ring so that people knew that I was taken. And he had a temper that was just unpredictable. So I ended up in a process where I was walking on eggshells all of the time, I suppose, because I just never knew when I was going to wake the dragon, when it was all just going to explode. For example, I was sitting down at the table one day and was trying to work out the shopping list, and I was planning meals, and I said, gosh, it's hard to remember to try and think of meals, to which he proceeded to shove a fork in the table and get in my face and say that I resented cooking for him and stuff, which was just ridiculous. But it would always stir from something stupid like that, which meant that I could never see it coming, except I could tell some days that it was going to kick off that day, but I wouldn't know how, and I would be absolutely petrified on those days because he'd just be particularly narky or particularly critical of people on television or people that passed in the street, and I'd go, oh, yep, we're going to be copping it today, but I'd never know how. He would always turn it around on me. He chipped away at my self-esteem, my self-respect, and my belief in myself on a regular basis. Everything that I was passionate about, he would mock and say it's stupid, and he would continuously do that. And everything about my personality, he would just say, I'm too weak, I'm too sensitive, and he would try to tell me that our relationship was normal and that I was just being soft. And so everything was always put back on me, which makes you then start to not have faith in yourself and start to sort of think, who am I, what am I doing? So it was a very harrowing process or experience, but I was strong. Sometimes I felt like I wasn't a strong person because of what I was doing, but at the same time I was going to work every day, putting a brave face on. I was going to family dinners and pretending my life was lovely. So that takes strength. And it also takes strength to get out of these things, and I think I was actually lucky to get out of it within 3 years. It just escalated one day to a point where I feared for my life, which I had a couple of times. I'd also had some low moments where I thought it was easier to take my own life. I'd survived those as well. So it just got to a point where it was like, I am absolutely done. I don't even care if I lose my house. Just, it's over. And I thought he might even kill me, but I'd had enough. I then had to live with him for about 2 months before he found another house, which I was terrified in those 2 months, and I lost a huge amount of weight because I thought he might actually really, really hurt me now because he's got nothing to lose. We're not together anymore. So that was terrifying for me. So my quote of the day today, obviously there's a bit more to that story, but my quote of the day today is that sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think that you've been buried, but you've actually been planted. Um, for me, this was the biggest growing lesson of my life, and I think I needed it. I needed it to grow a backbone. I needed it to have faith in myself and realize I am a strong person, to get some self respect and realised that I deserve better, which I would never have sort of said about myself before. And I had to break through that mould of that shy, little, weak, unassertive girl and go, right, I'm fierce and I am going to be fearless and I am not taking this anymore. So I managed to do that and it was terrifying, but I came out the other end. So stay tuned for the next chapter, but know that a lot of my clients who have health issues, it's all stemmed from some kind of emotional trauma or really, really stressful event. And people kind of put that aside like, oh, yeah, that's nothing to do with my health. It's that I've got a chemical imbalance or just a disorder of some sort. But I can tell you now that a lot of health issues are linked back to experiences or limiting beliefs or upbringing, or there's so many things. So I have been able to help my clients break through some of these issues, as well as work on improving their nutrition. And improving your nutrition is not just about eating broccoli, it's actually about self love and self care and having enough respect to do right by your body and support your body and love yourself. So obviously we'll talk more about this in the all of the next coming days of all of my video series, but at the moment I'm just wanting to give you a little bit of background on my story, give you a little bit of hope in case you are finding yourself in some of these situations, to know that it's survivable and that yeah, you really will learn a lot from anything that you've been put through, and I don't think that anything was a mistake. But yeah, that there is help here. So I hope that you'll have a lovely day. Please tag someone if you think that this story might resonate with them. And definitely if they suffer from any sort of chronic illness, adrenal fatigue, fibromyalgia, autoimmune diseases, because they will learn a lot in the next 30 days and they could really, really benefit from a health coach. And guess what? I'm one. So I will explain a lot about what a health coaching really means too in the coming days as well. So yeah, please tag somebody who might be interested. Share this video for me and check out my website, which is actually up here. I got it wrong the other day. And have the most magnificent day. Sunshine and happiness to all of you. Thanks a lot for joining me. Okay, bye.